Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Today, I am not joined by Q. I am joined by Raphael, our CEO, co-founder and CEO at WeWeb. And you may have seen we just released a new pricing plan, so he'll be here to answer all your questions. Also, super open to discuss the roadmap for the coming weeks. Very exciting things coming. I think some of you will have seen WeWeb Copilot and maybe a little teaser about the Figma to WeWeb plugin. So, hi, Raf. How are you doing?
Great. Hey Joyce, how are you? I'm good. Great to be here.
Yeah, I see we have Ambroise in the Twitch chat.
Hello
So
there.
we're live on Twitch and on YouTube. Bogdan is on YouTube. What backend service you prefer? That's a good question for the chat. Kian, hi, and he prefers Xano. Frikofu is here as well from La Réunion, I believe, with Clément and Michael from Nokodomia. I saw your project and I saw you connected a custom domain and looked at your project. It looks very nice. Xano here as well, but looking at Altogic. Okay, in the coming months, years as well. All right, good to know. Indrek is here. Jonathan. Dams8 is one of our developers, and he says, hi,
Wow.
boss. Mark is voting Super Bass, and Ryan, we've seen you pop in on Twitter, so it's really nice to see you here.
I
Oh,
not boss. Hey Mark.
Cram TV is Mark, our CTO, so he refuses to call Ralph a boss for
Yeah,
the
I
inside
mean,
jokes.
Mark is my boss.
Yeah,
Definitely.
he's GPT's boss.
He's the hidden
So.
boss.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, Van Strudel, aka Q. All right, so Raphael, maybe you wanna take over and
Yes.
explain a little bit what we've tried to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I think this. So hello everyone. I'm very happy to be here. This session is really an ask me anything, and it's not only for me. I mean, you can ask anything to Joyce as well or to anyone in the chat. But really, I think we can just kick off by going through the prices change that are going to happen next week. So we did the announcement last week. People might wonder, it come at a point where there's this whole bubble prices change as well. So was this on purpose? And it's interestingly not. I mean, we've been working on it since a couple of weeks, almost 2 months, and we plan to release it in April. So it's actually coming at the same time as when Bubble decided to do their pricing update. But obviously, we kind of adjusted a little bit because we, just like all of you, we kind of read all the comments that were on Twitter and everywhere, and so we understood that one of the main issues to address was vendor lock-in. People felt like they couldn't get out, and they were kind of the victims of their editor, in this case Bubble, but it can happen to any type of editor. And so we kind of accelerated the process on our side to enable code export to everyone. And I think that's probably, to me, one of the main thing of this announcement, because up to now, code export was only available at enterprise level. And so we decided to make it available for every plan. So as long as you pay a starter or scale plan on a yearly basis, you will have access to your code. And this includes the front end and the little server that comes with the application, so that if you have the authentication, you can run the application together with your oauth in a secured way. So yeah, I think that's number one for me and for the whole team. Mark here could tell you how many hours and days and months he put into enabling code export and self-hosting. So it's a huge feature. We spent a lot of time on this. So I think it enables a ton of value. And one of these is that if ever you need to scale without us, you can definitely export your code and then scale on your own. So I think it's very important. Then the other main change is that we kind of split it the way our plans are working, because
So
up to now,
if I can
yeah,
just maybe
yeah,
interrupt
go
you a
ahead,
little bit,
Joyce.
because I saw conversations on Twitter about, if you can't re-import the code in another tool, then it's not really, it doesn't really address it vendor lock-in, but it's like in terms of no code, the tools are built in different ways, so there's only so much that you can do, but you have that, the code is yours, so
That's right.
it's
Yeah, it's true. I think it has a ton of value just if you think about IP itself.
yeah.
We know that firsthand because our investors, when they invested in WeWeb, they requested that we have our IP sorted out, and so the IP is tied to the code most of the time. And so, enabling to give the code to people building on our platform is also freeing them up for intellectual property. So I think it's that's critical. Also, like most of our users or customers using self-hosting today or code export today are big companies usually, and either they have a very high number of monthly visits, over 1 million or 2 million for some of them, or they have very complex technical requirements and they need to get their code, usually uncompiled, run it through their CI/CD, then build the code on their infrastructure and then deploy it. And so, yeah, code export, adds a ton of value for those type of needs, and now this will be available to everyone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just to address Ambroise's question, yes, code export is available for subscriptions on a yearly basis, not on monthly, and exactly for the reason that Raphael mentioned, that it's, there's a lot of work behind the scenes, and a lot of we think we're delivering a lot of value to this export. So that's one way of
Yeah, exactly. And another way to think about that is, say you build on WeWeb for like 3 months, 6 months, on the editor. So you never actually subscribe to a plan, and then you subscribe to a plan monthly. You export your code, you host it on your own infrastructure, and then so basically WeWeb would have collected, I don't know, $49 or something. And so then it doesn't reflect the value that we added, or that we provided to our users. And with such a model, there's no way that our company can actually survive. And so, yeah, that's why we said you can build on the editor for free, and then whenever you're ready and if you need to export your code, then you would pay a yearly plan, which means that we would collect slightly more money that we think would be more representative of the value that we added to the customers. And then you can run the code on your own, and stop paying and stop renewing your subscription if needed, because we think the value that we bring is actually in the build phase. We obviously abstracted a lot of complexity from a DevOps standpoint. So when you hit publish, there's a lot of magic happening, so that everything is deployed properly and works and runs
the
fast
Mark
and
magic.
smoothly. Exactly, this is Mark magic happening, and not only Mark, but Mark and all the team.
Of course.
But I think like the most important value that we're providing really is that we enable our users to build much faster than if they were to code. And the purpose of any company is to add a ton of value and capture just a little portion of it to cover the costs and make some profit to continue to grow the company. And that's how you usually do. And so a typical rule of thumb is to get a couple of percentages, say 30%, let's say, of the value that you're creating. And so, yeah, we kind of adjusted the prices to this theory.
And Frikofu is asking how code export works, if it's just a zip or if they can connect a source code manager. I think he meant to the editor, but I'm not sure. We have user. I don't know if you want to take the question, or maybe it's a bit, because otherwise we have user docs on that we will update. But yeah.
Yeah, I can just real quick address it. So you will be able to export a zip, and in that zip you will have your front end, basically your Vue.js application, and you can export it. You can export the code compiled or uncompiled, which means if it's compiled, it's just ready to be hosted on a server. If it's uncompiled, you will really have access to the code and be able to do some updates to it if you want manually, or run it through a CI/CD, which is like what most of our customers are actually doing, to make sure there's no bugs or issues, and then build it on your side and then deploy it on your infrastructure. And another little thing that comes with it, and I think it's important to mention it, is what we call the WeWeb server. And so you guys will see it on the documentation. But the WeWeb server is a node.js backend, and it comes to cover the oauth, basically. And so because you don't want to have your secret keys to be in the front end, and so those keys should be somewhere in the backend. And so we provide a little backend as well, and so it's on a GitHub somewhere. And so we will give access to that GitHub to people subscribing to a yearly subscription. And then you will be able to get that Node.js backend, deploy it on your infrastructure, then refer to that backend in your dashboard, so that when we build your application, your front end, it actually knows where the server is. And then you will export your code. You will have that zip, and then when you deploy it, it will communicate properly with the server that you will have deployed earlier. So everything is like nicely documented. And it works and scale, as much as needed.
Cool. And I'm just seeing Bogdan ask a question about connecting storage with tables in Super Bass. It'll take us too far away from like the pricing and roadmap, but I've added it to the list of topics to cover in future streams. So yeah, so we can't address that one today, but we've got your back. And here we have a question about, is it possible to build live streaming shopping website apps using WeWeb?
Probably yes. Obviously, the devil is in the details. So we would have to understand the entire scope and depth of what you want to build. But I mean, in WeWeb, you have a payment system. You would use Stripe, obviously, and then you can use any backend. And if you want to live stream, then it would require probably a lot of bandwidth, and then you would have to use a backend that scales for that. So I think it's really probably more a backend issue than a front end issue.
Thanks. And Chad is asking, which pricing plans include the nice WeWeb hoodie that Raphaël is wearing? Yeah.
Well, Chad, if you continue to be super nice on Twitter for us, maybe eventually you will receive your own hoodie. So we have actually it's in my basement. It's so funny. We have those hoodies ready for power users and partners and people we like to co-build with. And so we don't have a real logic to distribute them, right, Joyce? It's like on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes people are just asking for it, and we just send it. It depends.
And actually, Kian commented it. I thought I had sent one to Kian.
You don't have yours, Kian?
I'm surprised.
Maybe he wants a second one.
Maybe he wants a second one, yeah.
Nice.
And so we have lots of questions, actually. It's really cool. Thanks. Keep them coming. So what is meant by the custom components in the business and enterprise workspace plans in the new pricing scheme? Does it relate to receiving customer support from WeWeb about creating custom components in Vue.js? Or does it mean only those subscribed? Let me read here. Subscribe to these plans can create and import custom components in Vue.js.
Yes, the latter. So yes, yeah. So creating custom components. So again, everything is connected to really the value and the time we spend developing features. And so enabling our users to kind of import custom Vue.js components in the application, like code export took a lot of time. And we continue to improve it. So we have a documentation. We usually provide some support as well to do this. And so we enabled it only for people now who will have the business, because we feel like when you need to import a custom Vue.js component in your application, it means that it's rather complex, meaning that probably we would have provided a ton of value to the user actually doing it. And so we base this assumption on actually concrete use cases that we already have. So we don't have so many users. It's in terms of percentage, it's probably 10-20% of our users actually importing custom Vue.js component in their applications. And usually those users tend to be heavy users with highly complex applications. So we thought that we would add it on the business plan, and so it doesn't include per se a dedicated support, say 1 hour per week, where we would help you build. But actually, when you're on the business, you will have access to a live chat to discuss with us. And behind that live chat, if you have questions on how to build your Vue.js components, then we can send you relevant people on our team to actually help you do that. So yeah, this feature is more like for very professional users, and so we want to be able to help them achieve building those components when they will need. And so that's why if they subscribe on the business, it will be easier for us to go and help them.
Yeah, and actually we've so Aurélie, our lead front-end developer, hosted and co-hosted a couple of live streams with Q and also Mariano and Emanuele Serafini from the Serafini agency in Italy to talk about how to build custom components, Vue.js components, and import them to WeWeb. Those 2 streams were actually very popular, and we've had a lot of requests for more of these, and also a course on how to build and import your custom Vue.js components into WeWeb. So what we've been thinking, and Aurélie is like super excited about this, is for Aurélie to kind of think about a sequence of maybe 3 streams that are more kind of a mini course almost on how to build a custom component and import it in WeWeb. And so the idea is we're going to try to organize these live streams with Aurélie and Q, and then kind of repackage them, make them available in the WeWeb Academy, so that you always have that reference to help you build, in full autonomy, those custom components.
This makes me think as well what you just mentioned, that importing custom components is also available on the agency plan. So we often talk about the main plans for the users, but we actually have a lot of users who are either freelancers or agencies. And so when you are on an agency plan, you'll be able to build your own components and import them. So again, I think the logic here is, we realize that this feature is mostly used by very professional users, and we want to be able to help them, when they start building those.
We've got a question from Louis, who's saying he's been using Bubble for 2 years and really considering leaving. Aside from the backend, what are the primary things that Bubble offers and WeWeb does not? I mean, I think the number one thing is the size of the community. I mean, obviously the Bubble community is amazing. They have an amazing community of people who've developed really cool plugins and extensions and items. So I think that would be the big thing. And I mean, I know you said aside from the backend, but that monolithic approach, it can be very valuable for some people. So I think those are the 2 things that come to mind. Maybe
another one I have is probably the number of plugins that they have, but it's linked to the community. So I think maybe before starting, make sure that you will have all the features you need for your use case in WeWeb, because you might miss some that's already available through a plugin in Bubble and that's not available yet in WeWeb. We are catching up, so I think there's not so many use cases where what you can build on Bubble you cannot build on WeWeb plus Xano or WeWeb plus Super Bass stack. But yeah, I would advise you to check it out before actually starting rebuilding on our platform.
For sure. And design agency, really good question. What security and compliance standards do WeWeb include for fintech applications?
So that's the beauty of code export, actually. The level of security and compliance you'll be able to provide really depends on you. As long as when you start self-hosting, You can deploy on your own infrastructure, and you can then provide the level of security that you need. In terms of if you don't want to self-host, then I can just like real quick draw how it works in WeWeb. But when you hit publish, everything goes through a AWS infrastructure. And so we use CloudFront as a CDN. And so we would replicate your CDN, replicate your front end across a global CDN. And if you use, say, Xano as a backend or Super Bass in a dynamic way, so there's nothing static going on, then all the requests will be made on the client side, which means that your data will never go through our servers. They will remain on Xano or Super Bass or whatever backend you're using. And I think it's critical for you to know in terms of compliance that as long as you use WeWeb just as a front end, we basically have no way to access your data, and it's never going through our own servers. I can't hear you, Joyce. I don't know if it's me.
Yeah, I muted myself, sorry, because I was answering Kian in the chat that we will fix the hoodie issue and get to him. Sorry, so yes, Mark has a great question about like how WeWeb is developing, and the idea is that he obviously he knows who's asking, but like how would you estimate the system risk of committing to WeWeb? Like how is it risky to commit to WeWeb right now?
Okay. Well, again, I would say, code export really kind of edge a lot of the risk that you might take, because, in the event where, we would have to shut down, which is really not part of the plan at all right now, you would have your code that you could run on your own infrastructure, which means that your risk then is limited to the access to the editor and the possibility to update your own application without coding. Right? So that would be the risk right now. Now, we've been around since 2018. So I think the company is has proven solid. We are growing at an accelerating pace right now. We are backed by very, very prestigious investors for what it's worth. Like, Y Combinator is one of them. The venture fund of Bernard Arnault, the CEO of LVMH, is one of them. I think it's one of the most prestigious in France. So yeah, I think it's key. Now, just to give some kind of backstage information, our investors are pushing us to raise, but we don't want to, which I think is a good signal. So if we wanted to, we could raise another round right now. But we don't have to. And so you can read between the line what that means in terms of financial health of the company, but we don't have to raise another round. And so we're kind of managing the pace at which we want to grow. So yeah. So the company is going well, and that's all I can say, and you'll have to trust us. But otherwise, from a risk standpoint, keep in mind that your risk then is only limited, and I know it's important, but only limited to your ability to edit your application in a no-code fashion. If we were to shut down, you would have your code and your application, and you would be able to run it on your own without being tied to our platform.
Cool, thanks. Keen is asking for a roadmap update on like significant component updates that are on the near-term roadmap. So I'm not sure, Keen, if you're referring to the components only, or if you would like a quick update of the near-term roadmap. I think a quick update of both would be good.
So component is reusable component, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So it's coming. Aurélie and Dam here are already working on it right now as we speak, and so it should be available by the end of May. So I think 6 weeks from now, it should be in production, hopefully. So again, like this feature is very, very big. So we might hit some roadblocks, but to be honest, we've been reviewing it, and we don't think that there will be a roadblock, but we never know. But what I can say is I think I'm pretty confident that within 6 weeks we'll roll out reusable components to everyone.
I'm checking if Dan disconnected to go work on that. Do you want to give maybe just a quick update on very near?
Sorry, Joyce. Kian said I meant the existing elements. Honestly, like the calendar. So I'm not
Okay.
so I don't have the details for all the elements. I think we have been doing some improvements on the calendar recently.
Yes, the date pickers have been updated.
Yeah,
the date and time pickers have been updated, so now you can actually use the. It's basically if you're building a booking system or an Airbnb clone, it's much nicer than before. So I think for that, the easiest thing to do is like look at the public roadmap on for like specific small components, and it kind of moves around.
Yeah, another thing I can say is, I know the community, all of our users have been asking for more templates. A lot of our users have been asking for more templates. And so we are working on it right now. So our product designer is actually right now designing and building the templates in WeWeb, and then, splitting them into dedicated UI kits. And so when the reusable components are done, we are going to kind of do a sprint on making all of these templates available and ready-made within design systems, UI kits. So probably again towards June, then we should have a library of elements, of components and templates that will grow significantly.
Actually, that's a really good transition to the next question, because I know we have a real estate marketplace template coming up, and Armin is asking if it's advisable to build a marketplace or directories on WeWeb. The main question being around SEO and how well individual pages are indexed by Google.
Yeah, well, so it depends. I would say WeWeb in terms of SEO is good. It's not terrific. It's not extraordinary. It's good, meaning that everything required for your pages to be indexed is available. You have metadata. You have the robot.text. You can. Everything will be ready-made for the robots to parse through your application and actually index the pages. However, now if you are heavy on SEO, and if you are expecting to release one article per day, one new article per day, and so that it ranks, I think you should probably look at other platforms. For example, Webflow is way better than us in terms of SEO. I think it doesn't mean that we're bad. It means that I think what they provide is actually extraordinary. So yeah, I think in short, that's the best I can say.
Yeah, and just to give maybe a bit more context, is that like Webflow will publish static pages with the content, whereas when you press publish on WeWeb, it's a standard Vue.js app. So there's a little, well, it's JS, so it's JavaScript, which is loaded. It's not loaded on the first,
Request,
it
yeah.
takes a second, on the first request. So for the the robots basically come back, we'll see the data the next time they come. I think this will evolve because there are more and more websites and web apps built with frameworks like Vue.js or React, but in the meantime, static wins.
Yeah.
Ambroise is asking, do you host the cloud-based WeWeb apps on Vercel?
No, everything is on AWS. No more native than that.
Yeah. So design agency, wondering about SEO as well. Bubble was not the greatest for SEO, but Webflow is excellent. Mm-hmm. Where does WeWeb sit in that spectrum?
In the middle, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. G. Baudouin asking, I see that the new pricing mentions app visits instead of app sessions. Any difference between those? How are those actually evaluated?
There's been an internal debate on the wording here. This is going to be addressed through a tooltip. When you will hover on the pricing page, you will have like a full explanation in plain English. It's going to be easier. but basically it's the same. So just to explain how it works, how we count a session or a visit. Say you have an app, and I'm just like going to that app, and so we count one session. And if you browse through the pages in that app, it's still only one session. And then if you close your tab and open the app again, then it's another session. Then we count two sessions. So yeah, that's how we do.
And the reason we remove the notion of sessions is that very often it's associated with a 30-minute time span in tools like Google Analytics and other analytics tools. So we removed that word because we thought it could be confusing, but I guess visits is not clear enough. So like Raf said, it will be a tooltip.
Yeah.
Michael is asking, can you please clarify the limit of up to 4 plugins in the starter plan? Absolutely. Are these future paid plugins, or does it incorporate the plugins already accessible like Xano, oauth, CSV, OpenAI, and all that?
Yeah, so it includes all of the plugins available today. And so just to explain a little bit on the logic again behind this, what we're trying to do is to capture the level of complexity of an application that's being built. Because again, going back to the assumptions, we are trying to capture just a little portion of the value that we're providing to our customers. And so, if we would provide unlimited plugins at a starter plan, which is way cheaper today, there is no way that we could cover our costs, basically. So we are trying to find some keys to understand how complex is an app, and then to move people who are building very complex applications to the higher tier so that it can finance and help us having lower tier. And so the starter plan really is a starter plan. It should help you play around with WeWeb, build something rather complex, feel if it's the right tool for you, help you launch your application, and then when you have to scale, make it more complex, add more features. You would probably add more plugins, and then it means that we think you're ready to move to the higher tier, because you have a more complex application. So what's not fair actually today probably is that they are what we call simplistic plugins that should be available kind of for free, that are included today in the number of plugins that we're counting. I think a good example of this is just like the YouTube plugin, for example. I think you should be able to use YouTube without this being counted as one of the 4 plugins.
To be fair, you can use YouTube without using the plugin. You can just
That's
embed
true,
the
yeah.
HTML, but yeah.
As well. But it exists because it helps, and so I think probably this one should be just made available and for free. Now, yeah, so no, that's pretty it. But thinking about it, 4 plugins, you can have a data source, say Xano. You can have an oauth, say Xano oauth or any other. You can have REST API or even OpenAI if you want to call some other APIs, and one other plugin. For example, charts. If you want to build a nice dashboard. So with 4, we think you should be able to build already something pretty nice and complex. And again, we based that on real life data, and so we kind of screened all of our starter users and scale users, and we realized that most of the scale users were actually having way more than 4 plugins, and most of the starter users were having less than 4 plugins, and so that's how we decided on 4. But this could evolve in time. I think we'll conflict it with the reality. But yeah, for now, we think it's a good key to understand whether the app is complex and delivering value or not.
Back to custom components, Josh is asking if importing custom components is available in any of the current early adopter plans.
Yes, all of them.
And also asking, will the process of building custom components become easier via WeWeb Copilot or a marketplace, and how soon?
So via WeWeb Copilot, could be. Copilot is so magical that could be. In terms of process, it means that we would have to train the AI. So we are using DaVinci. So we're using GPT in the backend. We would have to train GPT on our documentation, and then you would have to kind of mention what you want to build, and then the AI would try and build it using vue.js and using our wrapper to make it work. But it's kind of far-fetched for now. We didn't plan to work on it yet. So I think in terms of helping you out, first of all, many people don't know that, but all of our components are open source and available on our GitHub, which means that you can use them as a basis to build your own components, which I think is a nice first step. And when the marketplace opens up, which is not planned for the really near future, best case is the end of the year. Then people will build more and more components, and hopefully some of them will be open sourced, and then you will be able to use them as a boilerplate to start building your own. That's how it will help, maybe.
Cool. I just saw JP's comment, so I didn't say hi before, but hi. Victor is asking, any new extensions or plugins on the roadmap?
Yes, sir. Let me check. First one coming up is Smart Suite. I don't know if you guys know this platform, but we've been in touch with them. Very, very nice team. Very impressive. And so it looks like Airtable a little bit. And so they needed a front-end builder to build on top of this. So this should be released next week. Hopefully, it's now in QA. Then we'll have to figure out. I think, there is probably coming up Firebase, very important. And we're actually thinking about doing a Bubble integration because, we think that people who still want to default to Bubble to use their backend could benefit from our front-end builder. And so, again, we think of Bubble as a potential partner, actually. And so we could probably, get into their community and just provide our front-end builder to their users so that they could build together with a Bubble and WeWeb stack. Just like Xano is having their own plugin in Bubble, and people are using Bubble and Xano, I think we can do the same on the front-end side. So that's probably coming up. We have to discuss internally in the team in terms of prioritization. But these are the ones that should come soon.
And did I miss it? Did you mention Figma?
No, because I didn't mention it. Slightly different than a plugin.
No, it's because I saw extensions, so I thought.
Yes. So yeah, there is this big thing that's coming up. Mark and Luca, our product designer, are working on it. Which will be a Figma to WeWeb integration. And so basically it will be a Figma plugin, actually, not a WeWeb plugin. And so you will install a WeWeb plugin on Figma. You will select a frame, get the code out of that frame, and then be able to copy paste it in WeWeb. And it will basically build the UI based on your plugin. So we've been working on it since a couple of weeks, and it's very, very promising, the results. So we're still iterating on it, and probably should be releasing it very soon in beta, so that you guys can try it out. And again, the philosophy here is to abstract as much of the complexity as possible and accelerate as much as possible your ability to build a front end. So if you have everything in Figma, you should be able to translate it to WeWeb in a snap. That's the dream world here, and so we are working on it.
I see the next few comments are Kian, Frikofu, and Xavier teasing me. Of course not. I think you are an incredible community. I just have to acknowledge we're smaller at this stage. But yes, you are amazing.
The best.
And I'm just reading the chat comments in order because I don't want to miss any question. So yeah. And Felipe, hi from Chile. And Fred is saying, made the switch from Bubble to WeWeb plus Xano, and you'll be blown away by the WeWeb Xano editor. So
thanks, Fred.
Yeah. And Fred has a really cool project, actually. Well, I think I can talk about it. It's he coaches basketball teams, and anyway, it's a cool web app to help people keep scores during basketball games. All right, let's looking at.
Does the OpenAI plugin support streaming chat Whisper? Chat yes, Whisper not yet.
Fred is asking, are investors happy with your new pricing plan?
I'm sure you've heard about the Bubble price changes. Shit show, yeah. Sounds to me their investors may have been pushing for higher pricing. Could be. To be honest, so, thank you for asking, and one quick word about that. The first thing I want to say is we feel for Bubble internally. I think we have a lot of empathy for them. And we have almost no doubt that they will come up with a solution to kind of solve the issue. They probably had a blind spot. I don't know. We don't know how they are structured internally, obviously. And we are kind of following what's happening together with you guys, together with the whole community. And so we try to understand what's happening. No doubt they will figure it out. So yeah, I guess they just had a blind spot, and yeah, they are just redoing their calculation. So yeah, again, it's not like WeWeb against Bubble. Like I said, we were thinking about doing this Bubble integration. In our view, it's just a choice of how do you want your stack to be structured, from a philosophy standpoint. Do you want it to be like fully integrated back and front, or do you want to have like a front end decoupled from your back end? I mean, that's one of the main point. And then do you want to invest on different platforms? For example, because WeWeb is kind of focused on the front end, we will probably be better than a tool that's fully integrated, because like we have like one focus, which is like providing the best front end experience ever. And so Xano is doing the same on the back end. So that's also a bet on like which type of stack and tool you want to bet on. Now, yeah, probably the investors pushed for a higher price. I'm not sure. It's really hard to say. On our side, our investors are just, they just trust us so much. We don't have a board today. I think, it's very hard to compare Bubble to WeWeb. I mean, Bubble is so big as a company. WeWeb is more like a family-sized type of company. And so, like I said, we don't have a board, so they don't really push for anything. We have 100% of the control of the company. And so I didn't even consult the investors, to be honest, on that price change. We just decided to do it internally since about 2 months, because we thought we should just add more granularity to our users so that they can choose really what they buy using our platform, so that they don't have to have one plan that includes seats together with a project. They should buy seats and projects separately, so that they have a plan that's adjusted to the size of their team and project. So yeah.
And Ambroise is asking, what will the future ecosystem of plugins components will be like?
Yeah, that's a good question. Probably, thinking a bit forward, I think it will be a marketplace. And so we hope to open this to the community, probably actually soon, but in a non-scalable fashion. So I think we'll pick a couple of partners that will start building a couple of templates using WeWeb, and that manually will be able to make their templates available to the rest of the community. We'll do the same with plugins. We'll iterate on that, and based on the feedback and how and on the value that it's providing to our community, we're going to extend it and eventually build a marketplace.
And yeah, I mean, Josh said for the estimated timeline, I think we addressed that already. Oops, my camera went off. Let me connect to another one.
Yeah, go ahead. Is there an estimated timeline in place for template marketplace, community templates? Yeah, so I think so. End of May, we'll have reusable components. Sometimes in June, we'll have more templates that are coming from WeWeb. And then probably towards the end of the year, best case, so maybe the end of Q4, we'll start seeing like the premise of a real marketplace coming up. In the meantime, I think probably during the summer or early Q4, we'll start having partners and selected people from the community starting building templates and plugins, but we have to figure it out.
Cool. Nick is asking, do you support mobile apps stored natively or wrappers? And also, do you have a list of accredited WeWeb agencies?
Yeah, so we don't support a mobile app native. We support PWA, and that's actually part of the roadmap. So today you can have your web applications built in WeWeb as PWAs, but we don't have so many functionalities available. For example, we don't even enable push notifications, and that's something we're going to work on this summer. So this will come fairly soon, because I think we can provide a lot of value to our users building web apps and then enabling them to provide a better mobile experience. But we don't plan at all to go into that direction and to enable native mobile application because we want to be laser focused on web applications. Now, for the second question, if we have a list of accredited web agencies, we don't accredit agencies yet. However, we have partners that we know very well, with which we have great relationships. And so usually when people come to us and ask for an introduction to an agency, we know who to talk to. So what we do, just to give you information, we basically ask questions to the user. Where is he located? What type of budget that he has? What does he want to build? And once we have all that information, what stack he wants to build on also is very important. And once we have all that information, usually we provide a list of 2 to 3 relevant agencies that person should contact. And then we let them leave. We basically don't take any share out of that, and we don't really follow what's happening after the connection has been made.
Chibodora is asking if the agency's plan features trickles down to its customer plans. So I think that the main concern is like, if the customer is on standard, can the agency still use the free seats and push custom components to the client's workspace?
So an agency plan, interestingly, gives you the ability to join the workspace of your clients at no additional cost for you or for them, if that answers the question.
I think it answers the question of free seats, but I think another question then is, as an agency, if I develop a custom component, can I import it in my customer's plan, even if they're just
sorry.
standard?
That's a good question. I didn't think about that. If you have that use case, feel free to reach out to us and we can address it. Probably it should. Probably it should. Yeah, okay. Feel free to reach out to us and I'll be happy to dig on that use case because we didn't think about that.
Cool. Louis is asking, what are the most remarkable examples of SaaS companies using WeWeb?
Of SaaS companies using us?
Yeah.
I think one of my favorites is Kumu. So it's a very large scale up in Indonesia, in the Philippines. And so the story behind this is beautiful. So they are very big, right? And so they acquired a company recently called PenLab. And so that company was on a different stack. I think it was either like fully coded or there was a bit of PHP and WordPress and stuff. And so they decided to migrate that to a Xano plus WeWeb stack. And they have, I think, about 2 million monthly visits or something. So it's very, very big. And it's a nice use case because it's accessible. Like, unfortunately, most of our users are building applications that are behind an oauth, an authentication. So you cannot see really what they built. However, you can see what PenLab actually built. And so it's based on a subscription model. And otherwise, they have so many other platforms. They have a real estate platform that they are building with WeWeb as well, because it's a fairly large company with many sub brands, and they are using WeWeb for some of them. So yeah, I think this one is pretty cool.
Cool. And another question from Louis was the pros and cons between using Xano and Super Bass. I've used both and I love both. I think, I mean, maybe people in the chat will have their own opinion. I think it's just a different approach. Xano, you have your tables and separate API endpoints, whereas Super Bass, you protect a table through row level security and policies. So it kind of depends on if you want to do granular on Super Bass, I think it's more complex than Xano, but if you want to do simple, maybe it's easier to have a couple of policies in Super Bass than have to protect every Xano endpoint. But that's just my 2 cents. And
I can add to that, probably what I've heard a lot is Xano is probably more no code than Super Bass. And so for some backend functions that you want to build, using Xano, you can build them without coding. Using Super Bass, you would have to code. But Super Bass is probably more customizable. You can self-host. It has those advantages as well. So I would say, yeah, from a user standpoint, I think Xano is more no-code and Super Bass is more low-code.
And Fred is asking for the link. Yes. Is that PenLab?
Yes, it's penlab.inc, I guess. penlab.ink. Yeah.
Sure.
It's a marketplace where you can see mangas. I don't know how to say that in English.
Yeah.
But you'll figure it out. It's nice. Good looking.
They're loading a lot of data.
Yes, and they self-host and they use their own AWS hub in Asia, obviously for performance reasons. So
and have like millions of views, right?
I think 2 million per month or something. Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's a very, very beautiful example.
All right. Well, I think people have seen that it's you have been wonderful in the chat, an incredible small but strong community, as Kian said, because it's 4 to 10 a.m. Eastern, and the questions have stopped coming in, so everybody is very respectful of everybody's time. It's awesome. Were there a last few words you wanted to say, or?
Let me see. I think through the questions we kind of made it clear how the pricing is working. Just like any other editor, we can make mistakes. So we can still do some updates based on your feedback, guys. So we're listening. But I think, maybe just to conclude, what's the philosophy behind these changes? To give you more flexibility, first of all, to choose, what's necessary for you. So either like you buy seats or you buy project plans, and then you can, pick the project plan that works for you best. There is also, and I think it's important to say it, thanks to that added flexibility, we could decrease the price of the starter plan. So now it's more accessible for people to build like smaller type of applications or to try out WeWeb in depth. It's less expensive. And then we also reduced the step between starter and scale, which I think is another very big improvement. So, when you feel ready, you can scale, and the difference in price won't be as much as what it used to be. So I think it's, one important part. And the other part of that change is really to give you more freedom. And that's why we gave code export to every plan, and we didn't gate it to enterprises only. And so, if you want to start building something that scales in your startup, and then you will have investors and stuff, you can rest assured that, the code really is yours and that you own it. And, whenever needed, you can just get it and just like push it on your own infrastructure, or actually register it. Because for the little story, when we raised money, we had to we had to take our code base and register it in the IP management entity in France. And so that's something we want to enable everyone to do when it's required. So the philosophy is really, WeWeb is a kind of an IDE where you can visually program your own application. And so your code should be yours. And so that's why we made it available for everyone.
Yeah, and actually, it's one of the things I found most inspiring in the past few months is the startups that are raising money based on like apps built in WeWeb and
Yeah,
backend. It's really, I mean, of course, we identified because,
of
when
course, that's nice. That's our world.
uh,
And yeah, so
yeah.
that's very cool.
All right, cool. Well, thanks a lot, Raphael. It was awesome. I think we were able to address every question we got. So if we forgot, I really went top to bottom. So if I forgot to address a question to show it to Raf, don't hesitate to email us joyce@weweb.io, and I'll forward to the team. And otherwise, we'll see you next Thursday with Q. Talk to you
Awesome.
soon.
Thank you so much,
Bye.
everyone. Cheers, Joyce. Bye bye.